Hello everyone. You are on the SuperKit channel. Uninterruptible power supplies are not only for devices that are connected to the mains, but also compact ones designed for low-voltage consumers, such as routers, surveillance cameras, and 4G modems. Such UPS devices have become quite popular, primarily to ensure uninterrupted operation of a router. And it's great if your router runs on 5 volts, like my D-Link, because then no converters are needed at all, you can simply connect it to a standard USB port. Unfortunately, such routers are now rare. Your router may operate on 9 volts, but most likely modern routers require 12 volts. For universality and, so to speak, omnivorousness, manufacturers provide several output voltages, namely 5, 9, and 12 volts. With rare exceptions, even higher voltages are available. I purchased a UPS from the company 2E, its specification seemed quite convincing to me. The size of this UPS turned out to be slightly larger than I expected. This is not critical for me, but for some reason I thought it would be smaller. Not only can it output 5, 9, and 12 volts, but it also provides 24 and 48 volts for LAN and PO. Although personally, I think it would have been better to have more 12-volt output so that the necessary devices could be connected separately rather than through splitters. Additionally, a 5-volt USB port is brought out to the front panel for connecting 4G modems that distribute internet via Wi-Fi. The maximum total load is 36 watts. It is convenient that the power supply for charging the batteries is built in. The batteries here are LiFePO4 with a total capacity of 20 amp hours. The charge indication is 4-level, 25, 50, 75, and 100%. At the same time, by the color of the indicator, you can see whether the UPS is powered on and its status, charging or discharging. Given the battery voltage of 3.2 volts, the total battery capacity is 64 watt-hours. My router and fiber optic modem together consume about 7.5 watts, and that is through a power supply converting 230 volts to 12 volts. This means that eliminating power adapters by connecting directly to the UPS will slightly reduce power consumption, since additional voltage conversions are removed. According to this logic, the devices I need should operate for about 8.5 hours in my case. At the same time, the charging time of the UPS itself is a little over 3 hours. Seeing only advantages, practically in every aspect, except for some wishes, all this together determined the purchase. This device operates as a UPS and, in the event of a power outage, instantly and imperceptibly for the user switches the load to battery power. When power is restored, the load switches back to mains operation, and the UPS itself begins charging, which is indicated by the LEDs. To understand the charging percentage, the indicator for the corresponding percentage blinks, which is not very noticeable on camera. The package includes, besides the UPS itself, a cable for charging it from the mains, a cable with a split 5.5 2.1 mm connector, and an instruction manual, which I decided to start with. It clearly states that before connecting, I should check voltage compatibility and polarity. Well, I checked. And this is where the problem revealed itself. This UPS, instead of the declared 12 volts, outputs almost 14 volts. Of course, I did not connect any router to it after that, because my router cost almost 4 times more than this UPS. This voltage issue is pure madness. My charging stations also all specify 12 volts, while actually outputting 13.5 volts. Why this is done, I do not understand. At the same time, the 5-volt output provides a precise 5 volts, and the 9-volt output, surprisingly, exactly 9 volts. Not 11, not 7, but 9, as stated. What exactly is wrong with a 12-volt output in devices of this kind remains a mystery. I can understand a deviation of up to 0.5 volts, but almost 2 volts is clearly excessive. Of course, you may say that most likely nothing will happen and the router will work, and possibly it will. But only possibly. Someone will surely recall how they connected a router designed for 9 volts using a 12-volt power supply. Nevertheless, receiving nearly 15% higher voltage systematically over a long period of time, I see no guarantee that my router will not burn out. I have no doubts that the specified capacity here actually matches the declared one. After all, this is not AliExpress. From experience using devices that power my fiber optic modem and router simultaneously, I can say that a capacity of 20,000 mAh is definitely more than 8 hours of real-world operation under normal internet usage. However, as you understand, routers can have different power consumption, and they can be used differently. If you are at work and the router is simply plugged in, that is one usage scenario. If the router continuously handles torrent traffic at 1 bit less, that is another. The number of connected devices also affects operating time, both wired and Wi-Fi devices, and the Wi-Fi frequency band also influences the router's power consumption. Therefore, the only way to know exactly how long your router and modem setup will operate is through real-world testing. Everything else is just an estimate. The UPS was sent back to the store. I did not keep it. The money was refunded, except for the shipping cost. Why didn't I replace it? Maybe I just got a defective unit? No, it wasn't defective. I found a YouTube review of an absolutely identical generic device sold under a different brand. There, it is clearly visible on the PCB that near the 5 and 9 volt outputs there are different components soldered in, which ensure those voltages. But near the 12 volt output there are only jumpers, which most likely pass through the voltage coming directly from the 4 installed batteries connected in series. I think they saved money and maybe the equivalent of a couple of mandarins. So, a device that fully satisfied me on paper based on its specifications never actually became mine. Some may say that I am creating panic where there is none, but I will answer like this: when you buy yourself a router for 9,000 hryvnias, then you can connect it to 14 volts instead of the required 12 volts and say that there is nothing wrong with it. Such experiments do not interest me. And I strongly do not recommend this UPS. This situation forced me to make a decision about a completely different approach to powering my router and fiber optic modem, which I will talk about in the next video. As for router UPS devices in general, which already have an overpriced cost nowadays, for me, this is already a thing of the past. I am unlikely to decide on such a purchase again. Links to useful resources are in the description. Rate the video. Subscribe to the channel, there will definitely be more videos about various devices. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments, I will try to answer. Thank you all, and see you next time.